You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, somebody once said. Kind of like a Murphy's Law. We make some serious videos. I make some serious videos. And it's emotional for me. It's been an emotional ride for 3 or 4 years. It's hard to be objective. It's hard to be Walter Cronkite. And it's you feel like you're taking on a fight. And when people hurt you in retaliation for the hard work that you're producing, and they try to make it unpleasant for you to do what you do and unprofitable, unsustainable, then truth goes away. And I have put out some amazing things, but depending on why you would sub me or what you're interested in, if you don't let me know what you would like to see more of, I'm just out here running in circles, speaking in circles. This is a system that came in fast to Great Britain, and it's amazing that we documented its birth in Texas, tracked the eye all the way up the jet stream out to the North Atlantic, and now say hello to Great Britain. This is a West Coast. This is a West Coast picture of the United States. Please note, I would like you to note that giant wall of water that's coming in from the left-hand side of your screen. That water is actually tumbling over in a clockwise fashion. It's almost like it's a tube of water, and the water's tumbling over the top of the tube and down again. This tumbling action happens when a high density of particles like water run into high pressure. It creates a vortex. The water spins, and we see this not only right now, but we see this happening also in our magnetosphere. Remember those coils, So when there's a second force interacting with an original force that wants to continue in the same direction it is going, you have to apply other forces. So sometimes water moves through the atmosphere like a gentle flowing stream, and sometimes it comes through like a tornado laying sideways. But the main thing I wanted you to see was this wall of water. And it's important because this eye here, this eye that's over Central California right now, right over Central California, has mystified the southwest of Nevada. Very few raindrops fell in Arizona and Utah. Idaho got misted. And Idaho gets misted quite frequently, actually. So what happened is this system just popped up on the Baja Peninsula, and we pointed it out when it was just a baby little hook, because the water it was interacting with gave it away. There was water rushing up into New Mexico that came from nowhere, it looked like, but it was the outward pressure of a spin. A counterclockwise spin always means low pressure. Clockwise means high pressure. And when you create so much movement, you have high pressure separated by low pressure. And it's almost like wave swells opposing one another, because they come in an orderly fashion. They lose their order when this happens to them. You see the irregular, ragged edge to a nice rolling, pulling front that looks awfully suspicious, like geoengineering. And the thing that made me make a video right now and get it to you. That water, that whole wall of water, disappeared. There it is. It's gone. And that eye still exists, but it's a dry eye. It formulated partially over land, has been over land almost the whole time, so it can't get a whole lot of water into it, although it wants water. And so, how do you make an entire wall of water disappear? How do you do that? And basically what's left over, we tried to analyze on, the hot cold air, analysis. And what we find is that there's tremendous interference with the data. We have these radar pulses that are coming down from the North Pole. It could be jamming by our own people, so they can blame the government. Now, this leads to some very serious implications. That if you can control the weather, which is a written, stated goal of the military, was to control the weather by a certain date. There was a set deadline, and it looks like these pulses, if they didn't want them to be seen, they wouldn't be seen. You know that. I know that. So then, it's intentional. That's the only thing I could. It's what other conclusion it is. Intentional or unintentional. So if this interference that looks like pulsing that comes out of the North Pole, and apparently it affects the entire world equally, and all the way down to Antarctica, according to this. So what could do that and create interference? It has to be direct interference with the satellite. So then it leads you to the conclusion that somebody's intentionally interfering with data. They could blame it on the Russians, I'm sure, but why would the Russians there's so many satellites that monitor the weather. Why would they care about 10 frames a day? But we saw this happen on the sun when there was very consistent pattern being detected. They broke up that pattern by getting rid of the data. The data everything had gaps in it. I was worried about looping old data. Hell, they were just cutting it out. And you would see coronal mass ejections disappear on your screen from edits, bad edits. So to me, this is a very familiar idea that somebody is actually intentionally interfering with data so you don't see what's going on. But I saw what was going on, and I wanted to make you aware of it before it'll be hard to make you aware of it, because eventually this is not going to be allowed. But that water is gone on that front. It's just disappeared completely. And when you go to see what happened to it, because I had you watching it, we were monitoring this front daily. Look at that wall behind it. If you want to keep it from raining, and there's a system too big for you to manage, it's not too big for you to manage. You take your ionosphere heaters, which consist of trillion-watt lasers admitted to by physicists. You take directed energy weapons that are more easily mounted on land-based platforms, and you shoot them at a very point, and then at that point you also train your VLF, very low frequency patented technology, otherwise known as HARP, and you use your radio waves to try to heat the ionosphere. And you can create low pressure by putting the thing straight up and punching a hole through your ionosphere. But when you point it towards the horizon, you have so much more air particles to try to influence. Especially if they've sprayed metallic oxides, you have a really high resistance in the air pressure. You can move that air. And you could also make visible the weather patterns. So you've got your trillion-watt lasers, you've got your tens of millions of watts for your HARP, and then you have microwaves. And you spray metallic oxides now at 30,000 feet, and you point all this stuff in one hole. You create an eye and a low pressure that is like water. And once you create a whirlpool in water, it wants to stay a whirlpool. And so we see whirlpools now throughout the globe, and they all feature the same brand new characteristics never before seen on Earth in this extent. So you see an eye building that is so clearly defined it looks like a hurricane. And it's such a tight eye, they are hurricanes. But they're at incredible elevations, they're high level. And most of what creates these on Earth is the ocean, hot water, creating high density, creating whirlpools, rising heat, and falling cold. So what's happening is you can, now it dawns on me, you could take a wall of water like this, stretch it out like they did. It just, this push came from behind, and it just, everything moved all of a sudden after being stationary. They can create water pressure or air pressure anywhere they want. They could steer storms. So then you intermingle your high level created stuff with your lower level natural stuff, and you start creating things that you should have never seen before on a weather satellite. The thing that's disturbing is how this eye, this swirling eye, which if created by nature usually is created over a hot ocean and is filled with water, how we get a hot eye so well defined. And we just had one pop up today, and it's running behind this wall of water. And so they can create like a little vacuum anywhere they want. They could set it into motion, which then creates a high pressure versus low pressure regions, small area. The VLFs and the microwaves also, when they're pointed laterally towards the horizons, they create a wall of high pressure. So if you're like, well, what the heck, there's no way we can keep an entire jet stream out of California. We turned it south, north-south. We've turned it, and it's running, vertical. And now we're pushing it from behind to speed up the motion of that front, the lateral motion. When you speed up the lateral motion of a front, you leave less rainfall. But let's get a nice northern flow. Let's speed up its eastern flow, and then let's put a bowling ball over Central California that just happened to get to this front just in the nick of time. Yeah, that's what happened. So you think it's this front just popped up on its own and raced to Central California to keep the water out of California? Is that what you think? You think that was by coincidence? And these low pressure fronts can save the world. I mean, You could bring rain to where you need to bring rain. You just create a low pressure over an ocean, let it sit there for a while, and then nudge it into where you need your rain. So we've managed to take these high altitude, low pressure, started over very little water, so they're invisible to low level radar. You can't even see that hook over California. It's gone. And then what else went was the water. I guess it all just happened to fall 30 miles from the coast of California and just poof, disappear.